We'll start a new class today, and it's gonna spring 2024. My class on this quarter will be New Testament background. New Testament background, and the subtitle you'll notice, understanding the message with contextual reference or references, which means this class is going to be on the book of New Testament in the Bible, and it has to do with the background study of that New Testament. Okay, so we'll have together 10 weeks quest on under this title, and hope we'll have a good time together with you guys. Okay, let's begin with a brief introduction on myself for the new students. Of course, there are many who are taking some of my classes and continue to do so. My full name is Song-Soo Hwang, and Korean write that way, and in Chinese character, that's how I write it. So Song, it means holy or holiness, and Su means excellent or outstanding. So my grandfather gave this name, he was also a Christian and elder, and he thought this is a good name for a Christian. Okay. When someone teaches at a school, whether it's elementary, preschool, or high school, college, we're supposed to have appropriate credentials, meaning that we need to be qualified to teach a certain course or courses in a certain level of academic institution. So here I begin with my credentials, so you can kind of trust me on the subject that you're learning. I graduated Bangui Baptist High School, which is located in the Central African Republic. It's kind of strange for a Korean guy to graduate on high school in Africa. And this school is a so-called MK school, school for missionary kids. And I did graduate that school. So I kind of went to high school twice. I was junior in high school, almost the end of junior when I left Korea and went to Africa. Then I started from the ninth grade, and then kind of jumped a couple classes, and then graduated from that school. So total, I did like 4 years of high school, and then came back to Korea and did a major in English literature and language at the Yonsei University in Seoul, Korea. Also did Master of Arts in missiology in the Asian Center for Theological Studies and Missions, and it was a joint degree with the Fuller Seminary at the time, and we do not have that anymore, but at the time we had something called a joint degree. And then I did a Master in Divinity, began in Fuller Seminary, and then ended up finishing it in a Golden Gate Theological Seminary, which is now the name had changed as a Gateway, and in Ontario. Used to be in San Francisco. Then I did some PhD works, almost all the works, but I wasn't able to do the dissertation there at the Fuller, and studied with under the guidance of Dr. Clinton, Robert Clinton, famous Clinton, and that was my leadership major in PhD. Did not get the degree though, and then eventually got the doctor's degree from international on international development from the William Carey, which is also in Pasadena, and my mentor was Dr. Yoon Taek Im, one of the well-known scholars, Korean American scholars. Okay, then. Here's some my professional credentials that I'm a pastor, and I'm also a ordained minister. My work as a full-time minister began with the university. Actually, its full name is University Christian Fellowship, which is one of the oldest campus ministry. It's a global, and started in England, and it's all over the world now. And so I did like 18 plus years of ministry with the university. So my calling basically continue to be till today is for the younger people, young adults, and then youth are my main focus. That's my calling. And then as I come to States in 93, year 1993, I began diaspora Korean American church work, and still continues to do so, 30 plus years. And I was ordained as a Southern Baptist minister. And then that's the one that is relevant to us today as a professional minister. It has to do with something called inductive Bible study. It's a kind of Bible study that you dig into the text, the passage yourself, without any guided questions or the material to look into, but you have the Bible as the text, and you are reading it, doing the research, and try to understand the message. So that's a kind of a study that I've been doing for the last 40 years plus, which qualifies me to teach this particular class on the New Testament background. So another word, what I'm trying to say is the New Testament background study is necessary and needed, especially when you are doing an inductive approach to the biblical documents, whether it's Old Testament or New Testament. You need to have this background information to understand the particular text accurately and better. So that 40 years, I never stopped studying the scripture, because my ministry work as a pastor and a teacher has never stopped. So I continue to do that like not every day, but almost every week. And when you're a pastor, you're supposed to preach a sermon at least weekly, once a week. And when you're preparing a sermon, the main tool that we use, the pastors use as a researcher of a Bible, or the one who prepares a sermon, is this inductive Bible study method. I've taught one class on this at here in Lordland. So if you go to archive, you may find it, the video clip for whole the whole quarter, 10 weeks course on the inductive Bible study. It's not exactly the name is inductive Bible study. It probably is a Bible study method. You'll be able to find it in the archive. So that's who I am. And then these are some other personal backgrounds that you may want to know or may not. But I was born in Seoul, Korea, and was raised until junior in high school. Then my father, who is a medical doctor, he had a call to go to Central African Republic to serve there. So whole family moved to Central African Republic when I was a junior in high school. And then, like I said, I attended this Bangui Baptist High School, which is in the capital city, then later moved to 400 kilometers north. But I did attend and finished and got a high school degree from that private school. That's where I learned to more be fluent in English. So I give the credit to the school for who I am now, and then all the missionaries who helped me to become a Christian. Even though I was born into a Christian family, my father and mother both were deacons and deaconess in a church, but my personal salvation came through the school, where we had every day, beginning of the school, you have 1 hour class of Bible. So Bible class is required in this high school because it's a missionary kids school, and it's a Christian school, Baptist school, and it's natural for us to have that Bible study class every day. And as I studied Bible, I got to know what the message of the Bible is, and who Jesus is, and why Jesus is important, and what he had to do for me. And then I realized what really a Christian is. So I accepted Jesus as my personal Savior and the Lord at the age of 17, and was born again. And then came back to Korea, then entered Yonsei University, and there I joined the InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. And through that fellowship and training, I became more like a leader or more mature Christian. And at the end of the 4-year activities and the participation in university, I became a chapter president. Then graduated. On that graduation senior year, we had a retreat, and then that retreat, God called me to be a full-time minister, whether as a campus staff or the pastor. So I thought my calling's gonna be campus staff for life, and which I served 18 years since that time. Then came to the States in year 93 to further my education in seminary, and remained and stayed and worked here since. So that's my short life story, which kind of helps you understand where I'm coming from. I'm basically an open evangelical, meaning not like a fundamental evangelical. There are a little difference between fundamental evangelical and open evangelical. Probably the only difference is how you view the traditional or tradition of belief. I'm open to, continuing to review and renew and refresh and reform the knowledge and the understanding of the Bible and then the spiritual tradition. So we may become more biblical every day and also in the ages. Because even though we are studying the same Bible, there's no like a scientific progress or development that we see today in the biblical study, but God is going to tell us a certain thing. He opens certain revelation at a certain time. And some of the revelation has not been opened to us yet. So there is always that possibility of God opening a new knowledge or new perspective about who we are as a Christian and what the kingdom is about and how the history of Christianity need to be advanced or directed. So that's something that I am open to. That's why I label myself as an open evangelical. If you are a believer, you need to understand that word evangelical, which is one of the mainstream belief in America. And the word evangelical is more widely used these days than 20 years ago. But still, evangelical means Bible-believing Christians, which again, it means we believe the Bible is the only authority about our spirituality or our belief and practice thereof. There's so many so-called Christians who does not really give that full authority to the Bible, which is unfortunate and which is sad and which is even dangerous. For example, regarding the issue of homosexuality and gay and these things, there are some denominations who are interpreting the Bible in a certain way, so they are very flexible about these gay marriage, same-sex marriage, and transgenders, LGBTQ kind of things, political agenda. But us evangelicals do not agree with that. We are different kind of believers. So, excuse me. So we believe and trust that Bible is only authority that governs our faith and our practice. And if it's not in the Bible, we do not practice. If it is in the Bible, we believe as it is. So that's very fine line for Christians. So for example, there are those who do not believe in the resurrection as the historical fact. They think the meaning of resurrection or significance of resurrection is rather important than it being a historical fact. But us evangelical believers do believe the resurrection is a historical event. It is true, and we believe that we are going to be resurrected as well, as it is promised in the Bible. Okay. So let's begin with the syllabus. Begin to talk about the class that we are going to have for coming 10 weeks of period this spring. Course description. Now this course is designed to explore the background of the New Testament, of course. That's what the title is. And that includes the culture, geography, climate, and Jewish history, and Jewish literature, and Jewish religion, plus surrounding Gentile, meaning surrounding culture and religion that are related to the advancement of Christianity. Because, New Testament includes the Acts of Apostles, which happened beyond land of Judea or beyond Israel. And then Paul, he's not from the land of Judea, he is from elsewhere. And most of the letters are written by Paul, the Saint Paul. So we cannot disregard the background beyond the Israel. So it is included. So that the students, the students, learn to interpret New Testament writings, Gospels, Acts, and the other letters, plus Revelation. So these are 27 books, and we are going to, try to interpret those New Testament documents in a way, in their original context. We, technically speaking, we cannot do that 100% exact and right, and that's impossible because we are not living in that age. But we'll try to, accommodate and reach as much as possible. So our goal is try to be our best in understanding their original context. And the word context is going to be repeated time after time in this class because it is about the context of New Testament. Context means the surroundings. Everything for us today, when we talk about the context, it means other than myself or other than yourself, your surroundings, whether it's people, whether it's a society, whether it's a political system, whether it's some ideas and philosophies, these are all included as the context. Another word for the context that I'm going to use quite often in this class would be it's not the same connotation, but it's pretty similar. So the reality and context I use interchangeably, meaning, you can use the word reality for context and the word context for the reality. So when I speak about the reality and context in this class, you can safely assume it means the same thing. Okay. Thus, the class aims to provide lessons on the contextual elements. So to understand the context, you need to understand what kind of contextual elements are in that context. So we're gonna try to divide the context into certain segments or domains. Into several domains, so we'll understand what are in the context, and that are relevant to the text. So anything that has to do with the text, whether it's a political, social, or religious context, that we are going to look into it. And also that includes authors and the readers of the New Testament document. So when someone, whether it's Matthew, John, or Mark, or Luke, or Paul, or even Peter, when he or they wrote their documents, whether it's gospel or letters to Ephesian church or whatever, when they do that, it's going to involve the reality and context. So that, in other words, they cannot write anything, any document, without having the reference or influence of the surrounding context. That will be the same for us even today. Whether you're writing your diary, or whether you're writing an email to your friends, it's the same thing. Or letter to your family, it always contains the surrounding context. And we are going to look into how these contexts influenced your writing, or what was the meaning of the reference to the context. Okay? So the attention will be given to the impact of these background materials or elements on the exposition of key segments of the relevant New Testament. In a simple word, it means what it means. And how these things that we are going to look into going to help our interpretation and understanding of the Bible or New Testament for us today, for New Testament. So as you read the New Testament, whether it's the gospel or letters or revelation, you will consider, or we will consider, these contextual elements so we can better understand the message. Okay, course description continuing. Additional resources from Greco-Roman and Second Temple Jewish archaeological and literary works, or the we call the fathers of Christianity. These writings are also going to help us to understand the message, because those documents that are written within a couple hundred years from the resurrection of Jesus, or the writing of the Gospels, or writing of these New Testament, meaning there are other documents that are written after these New Testament was written. Those documents have the most relevance to the context or the reality that is in the New Testament, because that's pretty recent compared to where we are. We are like 2,000 years away from the document, the New Testament that we are reading. But these people, the fathers and all these so-called the Christian big Christian leaders at the time, from AD 100 to AD 300 period, they are the ones who are very close to the original document of New Testament. So we'll get some help from these documents as well. Actually, that's how the scholars do. For our level, we just want to know there are those things, those documents which the scholars are looking into, other than the New Testament itself. Fortunately for us, these scholars had worked many hours, even their lifetime, to study the background of the Bible Old Testament and New Testament. So we have today plenty of material, a lot of material regarding these background thingy. So we don't have to study. We just look into these information which has been already proofread and then tested, and we know which is the good one and which is not a good one. And in addition to that, with the help of this digital renovation and revolution, we can have that in our hands. You can just type in the question that you need to, and then there's an answer. Even better, with the AI, artificial intelligence, developing so fast, we'll have a much better access to this background information. So we love to, we need to just enjoy these technological development that helps us to study the Bible much easier and much better. So here are some of the course objectives. We just are done with the course description as an overview. Now, these are the things that we try to achieve during this 10 weeks course. Number one, we're trying to understand important aspects of Jewish history and culture, including Old Testament, that provide the proper reality in which formulated the events and people of New Testament. What it means is, we're going to look into the culture and history and the context of this Jewish people, which resulted the writing of the New Testament. Simple enough. Number two, we're trying to comprehend or understand the basic features of Greco-Roman religions and the culture, and how this Greco-Roman culture and then the government had impacted the early church and Christianity. Because the church and the Christianity in the first century, it did not grow by itself. It grew within this Greco-Roman context or Hellenistic context. So we also need to look into the cultures beyond Jewish culture. Number three, objective number three, or goal number three, is to be able to, students should be able to utilize or use this background information in the way to reach a better understanding of the New Testament and its message. So two things. You need to understand New Testament. And then from that understanding of New Testament, you will try to understand the message or messages. So all the things that we do in the background study is eventually and ultimately and finally trying to get the message right. Message right. So that's the whole goal, the final objective of this study. So at the end of the day, as you do the background study of New Testament, you want to eventually get the message from the New Testament. What God is trying to tell us. What Jesus is trying to tell us. what the Paul and all these writers trying to tell us today? That will be the question that we are trying to address. Okay. Here are some of the resources. You do not have workbook today, but you'll get it probably next week. And when you get the workbook, it's going to be there. So never mind writing it down. These are the so-called free resources. Thanks to these writers, they're putting this on online, on internet, on a website, so you can go into the website and you don't have to pay anything, but you'll be able to look into these textbooks. So we don't need to buy any textbook for this class. And one of the, there might be a better textbook than this one, but it's free and it's a good one, and why don't we use it? So Rick Griff's New Testament Background. It's just same title as our class. So yeah, this is the one good one. And another one, also same title, New Testament Background by Robert Newman. That's also free on the internet. So just, if you're a good student and if you really want to go further into the study of background, use these resources. Then Craig Keener, this art scholar is well known, one of the top scholars in the study of this background, and he produced several books on the subject of biblical background, and one of them is the Bible in its context. The other one is the IBP, that's the University Press, Bible Background Commentary of New Testament, and there's also a commentary for Old Testament. So these are some of the resources that I recommend, and I hope that you can use it, even if it's not today. You'll be using it in the future as you become a teacher. If you are a teacher already, then you need to use these resources, right? But these are good resources that will help you to understand and learn more about New Testament background. Now, here's the requirements for this class. Oops. Okay. Attendance. Students are required to present in person and sign the attendance sheet to get these points. We do not consider online attendance anymore. It used to be during the pandemic period, but especially for I-20 students, it is government requirement, not the school requirement. So if you want to be safe with the, this INS, then you want to make sure that you attend the class. So each class will give you 6 points, and total 10 weeks. So naturally, over 60 grade point total. So it's kind of an easy class for you to get the grade, because if you just make attendance, that automatically will give you 60 point grade. So try to be diligent and try to make sure that you come to the class in person. You may look into the video if you missed the class, in-person class, but the video is only an assistance. So, it doesn't count as the grade anymore. Now, these 2 reports are required, and you want to submit 2 Bible study reports. And each one should contain more than 5 background study elements that you research on. The pages, I would say less than 5 pages. Less than 5 pages. It can be a 1 page, but at least it should be more than 1 page. So 1 to 5 page, depending on which passage that you are studying. But you want to study New Testament passage, not the Old Testament. New Testament passages, just select few verses or whole 1 chapter and try to do a background study. You don't want to do all the interpretation, but just focus on the background elements, which is not so difficult. Make sure you do your own. Do not ask a chatbot or AI apps to do your job. Just try to. I don't want you to be like excellent, but I want you to show at least your effort. I know some of you are not so fluent in English, so I don't care whether your English is good or bad, But try to do these diligent. And the first one is due on the week number 5. Week number 5, which is, I think it's coming on the, let's see. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it will be April 23rd. That's going to be 5th week. So first one is due on April 23rd. And the second one is due at the end of week number 10. Class week number 10, which will probably fall the end of May, last week of May. So these are the 2 reports, and each report will count. Oops, I didn't put the points on. Each will count 20 points, so 40 points altogether, make 100 points. Okay. You need to document your own reflection of each background study within the selected passage. And you need to provide detailed description of your assessment of the background information that you found, whether this information is good or bad, or sufficient or not, or whether there are some other opinions on this background information, and those are the things on the second column. And then third, and also must write how this information or the information impacted or influenced or changed your understanding and interpretation of the text. So these are the 3 things that I'm going to look for in your report. And then on the letter size paper, printed of course, and no handwritten, and font size 10, double-spaced, meaning the basic college report format. I don't want to complex, rigid kind of format, but basic format. And 20 points each, which comes to 40 points total. Okay, so that's easy. Grading scale, 91 to 100 as A, and then below 60, including 60 points, will be F, which means your full class attendance will not give you the passing grade. Because if you come to every class for all 10 weeks, that means you are going to get 60 points. But you have to do at least one paper to get more than 1 point that you need to pass. So be aware the attendance alone is not going to guarantee you a passing grade. So which means if you miss 1 or 2 classes, then you have to, of course, do the makeup of those points, right? So that will be the explanation of the syllabus. You can ask questions if you need, and okay, that will take care of our first part of the things. Okay, we have we have probably about 3-4 minutes left for the first session of this week's class. We'll just continue on the introduction to the actual classwork. Part 1. So in this class, we have 3 parts and 11 lessons, I believe, 10 or 11 lessons. And this is part 1, which is an introduction to New Testament background study. So what we do in this first session, first part, is try to understand what are we going to do. What is the background study in the Bible study or interpretation of the Bible. We'll start with this passage from the Gospel of John. A woman at the well. This is one of the famous passage that most preachers teach pretty often. So if you're a Christian, if you have been to the church for a while, probably you have listened to this particular story more than once. So it's in the Gospel of John, and this we'll try to do the exercise. I'll just try to give you the sample passage to give you just rough idea how this background study is like. So we'll go into the passage briefly. Okay, these colored words are the background elements, so-called, or the elements that requires a research or study on its background. So the first thing that you do as you face a passage that you are going to study from the New Testament, what you're going to is you're going to pick up, or you're going to pick out those items or the words or expressions. Sometimes it could be a sentence that need your attention regarding the background. So here we go. The word now, then, and let's try to read. Now when Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that Jesus was making and baptizing more disciples than John, although Jesus himself did not baptize, but only his disciples, he left Judea and departed again for Galilee, and he had to pass through Samaria. So what we do is, this is your mindset. As you read the Bible, try to study the Bible. Think that you're not a Christian. And this is your very first time reading this particular passage. So that's how we start. Okay? All right. Let's take a break, and we'll have a 10 minutes break and come back at 11. Okay? By the way, we'll take the attendance, call at the end of the class. Okay? So, please. The reason I do is that some of the students leave before the class ends, and I don't want that to happen. So, take your break and come back.
What time the class end? What time end class?
It will end like 11:50. So 15 minutes from 11. So each class today is two 50 minutes class. Your name?
Agatha?
Agatha?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So is this your first quarter in the school? No? No. You've been at the school many years?
Some.
Yeah. So it's first time for me to see you, huh?
Because usually I go another class.
I see.
I saw you online.
Ah, you did? Okay.
Because I was watching online.
Mm-hmm. So is that okay if I ask where are you from?
Poland.
Poland? First student from Poland for me. There are students from China and Vietnam and also
Korea.
Turkey and
Korea.
Korea. And first student from Poland.
Really?
Many people of Poland, they are either Christian or Catholic, right? Or Orthodox
Most Catholic.
Catholic, most.
Most. Now young people, they don't care too
Yeah,
much.
and not anymore in Europe. Most Europeans don't go to church.
Here?
I mean, in the
Here they go to church a lot?
at least 30-40% still,
Some.
still go
Oh,
to.
in Poland also some.
See, All right, let us continue our second part of week number 10. So we'll continue and look into these elements. The verses that we are going to look covers like 26 verses. And this is a narrative where Jesus come across or encounter this woman at the well, the Samaritan woman, and this was what the conversation went on. We continue reading the passage, verse 5, beginning from verse 5. So he came to a town of Samaria called Sychar, near the field that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. So Jesus, wearied as he was from his journey, was sitting beside the well. It was about the 6th hour. Again, I told you that we are going to assume, if you're a Christian, if you've been to the church, and if you're familiar with the New Testament, probably you already know the passage, but try to be neutral, as if you are not a Christian, as if you are reading this document for the first time in your life. That's how we approach. As you do, there are some of the things that you already know as a Christian, some of the background information, but forget about it and try to do it, because some of the information that you have may be incorrect, or it might be partial, or it might be just not enough. So just do everything new. And these things, there are names of people and the name of the town here, and there's I should also bold the Jacob's well, which I missed. Jacob's well is something very relevant, and also the 6th hour. We're not using that kind of time and hour anymore. I mean, that's totally Jewish. So you got to know what time that it is referring to. Some translation already translated the 6th hour as the noon time. So in that case, it doesn't matter. But like a King James version or some of the authentic translation would use like a 6th hour, as it is, as they were, in the original, the Jewish hour, 6th hour. Continuing, verse 7. A woman from Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." Okay, give me a drink. For his disciple had gone away into the city to buy food. Usually, Jesus would not directly communicate with the woman, especially the Samaritan woman. But since the absence of a disciple, he has to. And then the Samaritan woman said to him, "How it is that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a woman of Samaria? For Jews have no dealing with Samaritans." That's the kind of custom. Just so it's blocked there. Anyway, that in parentheses it gives a background information, kind enough. So those are the things that we are looking for. And going into the city to buy food, that is not so, usual for us. I mean, you can just walk down the street and there's a grocery shop and you can buy food if you're living in most American cities. That doesn't sound, practical, but you need to go back to their time and their custom and try to understand that. And then Jews and the Samaritans, especially the Samaritan woman with the Jewish male, do not associate one another. And there is a certain social background and a reason to it. So we need to look into that to understand the whole situation, the whole reality better. So we'll just look into these verses as an example before we go into more of it later on. So we'll just take a kind of short practice and example study together to have very basic and brief picture of what a background study is like. So the thing is reading its context. There is the passage, the text. So we are going to read into the context. So in other words, we are trying to bring ourselves into that reality and that context. Before we go into the life context, basically, when we are speaking of study of document, we're talking about two different contexts. One is this called literary context. That's how document is arranged. And you look through that, flow of the thoughts or flow of the story. And that's how you look into the literary context. What happened before, in this case, it's a story. So what story happened before this particular story that we are reading and studying? Then what happened after this particular story? So that's something called literary context. But in reality, because it is a story, we are looking into their life context. Life context is where people live and what happened to the people and the events and the surroundings and so on. So, literary context in a narrative is looking into its life context in general. Except some portions in like a Gospel of John, there's a purely literal or literature context. Except those things, most narratives, it is a document of life and life context. So you don't really separate, but try to separate as a theory. So theoretically, literary context is you're reading it and what's happening before and after, or what's written before and after a particular passage that we are looking into. So let's go to before thing. What happened before this incident at the Jacob's well, where Jesus encountered this Samaritan woman? It looks very accidental, but at the end we know that this is a planned event by Jesus. or intentional event. And before, these are the things happened in chapter 3, John's Gospel, chapter 3. There's a story of Nicodemus. Nicodemus is a high official, very highest official compared to the lowest person in the society. So there's that contrast. And then there's a little passage, I told you there's a literary or pure literature portion in John's Gospel. This is what it is. It kind of, gives a certain comment or narration, explaining about the incident of Nicodemus and what's the incident that are following. So in between, it says, God so loved the world. And this is famous passage that even non-believers know and even memorize. God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. Whosoever believes in him will have everlasting life. So that's John 3:16, and it's pure literature. It looks like it doesn't have anything to do with the narrative, but it's a part of narrative, but it's commentary or it's a narration of sort. Then there's a John exalt Jesus. This John is a John the Baptist. So John the Baptist saying, this is, someone we need to lift up. This is the Messiah. So that's what John the Baptist is saying right before the event at Jacob's well. Then after this, at the end of the chapter 4, right after the story of this Samaritan woman, and she goes into the village and bring out the people, and then she kind of tell everyone that she met the Messiah. And then right after that incident, Jesus heals official's son. And then Jesus heals on Sabbath day at the pool. All these things, the narrative has one outstanding theme. And our job as a student of Bible is trying to relate these small stories, small incident, or small episode into one string of narrative. So there is something called thrusting or going through theme. It's like when you have these pearl necklace, you have to have a string to put these pearls in and make a necklace. So it's like something like that string. And the string is the Messiahship. Okay. So Jesus being Messiah. And so the theme, the Nicodemus, and the John telling God so loved the world, and so on and so on. And then John the Baptist, confessing and exalting Jesus as the Messiah. And then this very event, woman at the well, is also a way of showing that Jesus is indeed the Messiah, the living water. And then Jesus healed. Healing incident follows. And then another healing incident after this. It also means by healing a sick person, Jesus is showing his power. and his authority and who he is. So the Messiah, being the Messiah, is a main theme. And as you look into the background of these stories, those background studies will help you understand how Jesus is the Messiah. Because even those background information will aim at or come to the center that showing or identifying Jesus as the Messiah, the coming Messiah. So that's how you look into the literary context. And then, here are some geographical references or elements that you need to look into. Because we never lived in the land of Israel or Palestine, for the matter. Some of us were lucky enough to make a visit to the whole so-called Holy Land, including Israel, and then some part of Turkey, and some part of the Jordan and Iraq. These are, part of so-called Holy Land. And I've never been to Israel yet. So it's in my imagination. It's all in the pictures. And the pictures that we see is that the land of today, which is probably not the same as the land at the time of Jesus. So, but it is great help if you can visit these places that are mentioned in the story, and you'll have a rather more vivid picture of what had happened. But, the best thing that we can do for us who are not able to make a visit to the land, the best thing is to look into the books and look to the pictures that shows, and also the map is the one thing that will help us greatly. So the names like Judea, Galilee, Samaria, Sychar, Jerusalem are new to us. Let's assume, even if we are Christian, let's assume this is the first time that you hear about these names of the town or geographical references. So what it means is that we need to do some research and get the information that are necessary to understand what these towns are, or what these geographical references are referring to. And that's a very important part of doing a background study in the New Testament. So again, one of the fundamental things that you're looking for in your New Testament background study is the names of the places, so-called geographical references or geographical elements. So let's try to pick up Judea. I'm trying to show how we do these things before we really go into it. So you'll have at least a basic idea about what we are trying to do and as a student of New Testament. It says, and this is a very basic information. If you just type in the Google the search Judea in the Bible, and then it will have a very kind of long article about all the information about Judea. So that's how we are going to look into. But be careful. Those so-called Wikipedia information, some of them are correct, some of them are not, some of them are inclined to certain perspective. So you have to be aware of these are not all the Christian or biblical scholars who are contributing to Wikipedia. So knowing that still, you can go to some of those Christian reference sites like a Bible Gateway, or there are several ones, Blueprint. So there are some of the good so-called Bible site or Christian site or Christian reference sites, and then you can just type in Judea and it will just give you all the list of information. So this is only the showing you example. So it says includes Samaria and Idumea, and it's ruled by Roman procurators from AD 6 to AD 41, and again AD 44 to 66, and then also by Herod the Agrippa first from AD 41 to AD 44. So this is kind of information that we see, and how Jesus was when Jesus was walking in that land of Judea, who were the, like if we use today's term, who were the governor, who were the president, who were the senators, right? So this kind of try to relate to the reality there. And here's a map of Judea, ancient Judea, in the time of Jesus. And you'll find the word like Samaria, Galilee, and all these things on the map. So map reference is a good one. As you see that Samaria is on the top of the list, and you have to pass through the Samaria as Jesus tried to go reach Galilee, back to Galilee. And here's another good map that you can use. So these maps are available on internet. Thank God that we have these technology these days. When I was in college, we did not have internet, and we had to go through these books or go to library to just have this one map, to find this one map. No longer. You just type in map of Judea at the time of Jesus, and then there is many of them, and you just select the good one that you want to use. And that's what I did. So much easier for us, the student of Bible. And then Galilee. Galilee is the town of Jesus, so-called town of Jesus. This is where Jesus was grown up as a child. And it says area west of Sea of Galilee, ruled by Herod Antipas from 4 BC to AD 39. So we know Jesus was at the time, because we believe Jesus died somewhere around AD 33, or even some say 36. So, and between that window. And we know who were the ruler when they said Herod, the king. It means Herod Antipas. So it's a history. It's not just made up story. It's a history. Then by Romans, Herod Agrippa first, like a Judea. Okay. And it's the town of Jesus. He was raised and lived there. And it's a fishing town. And it's poor and low. That reference, town of the poor and the low, that is very significant to us, the interpreter of Bible. Which means Jesus was also He was poor, and he was regarded low, even though he was the descendant of the King David, royal family. But still, Jesus was born to a poor family, and then kind of low class. And that gives us a reference. And it's Jesus' hometown. Sychar, or Sychar, I mean, depending on how we pronounce. Sychar is a very small village, probably a town of few hundred at the maximum. And it is located in the middle of Samaria, and Samaria is a big area. It's not just the name of a town. It's like a county for us in America. Los Angeles County, Orange County, Samaria. It can be compared to the size of a county in America. So in there we have like a Anaheim City, Santa Ana. These are the cities. Same thing. But that Sychar is a very small town with a small population. And you can find the reference in Genesis 33. So when you see these biblical references, you want to go there and read it. So let me just put it up there. And in Genesis 33, verse 19, these references are written in the text, usually under the text, with a little small mark, A, B, C, D, F, and then it's right under the Bible, and you go there and read. And from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, he bought 100 pieces of money, the piece of land on which he had pitched his tent. Who are we talking about here? So looking at this particular verse, it's not that easy to figure out what he is. So we go before, and it says, and Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, on his way from Paddan Aram, and he camped before the city. So now, okay, this Samaria used to be the area called Canaan, and Shechem. It's the same area with a different name. And then it is Jacob who bought the land and pitched his tent there. And after that particular verse 20 says, there he erected an altar and called it El Elohi Israel. This is a very significant verse that you want to, have a reference to. Because erecting an altar is a very religious act, right? Very symbolic and religious. So we know this Jacob claimed that land to be holy, sacred. So the act of setting up an altar and giving the offerings and worshiping, it becomes a holy land. So later on in the conversation between that Samaritan woman and Jesus, they are talking about the worship. Which place is a right place to worship? And because of that reason, the Samaritan woman thought and believed this place is worthy of being a sacred place. So why can't we worship here in Samaria? But you Jews are telling us that the worship must be done in Jerusalem. So she had this question, and the background. Even though she is a low woman in Samaria, Samaria also being as much religious as any other Jewish towns, they were worshiping God. They were doing their, practice of faith in that place. So going all the way back to Old Testament, the reason that I'm doing is, as you try to find the New Testament background, many times, often, that you have to go back to the Old Testament to find out the significance and the meaning of that particular place or person and so on. So Old Testament is the big background to the New Testament. So you cannot speak or study New Testament without making the reference to the Old Testament. So Old Testament is a very important source, or the major source of our New Testament background. So going back to this, they usually have these kind of things in your Bible. Some of the so-called reference Bibles do have these things, like A, B, C, D, in parentheses or bracket or whatever the way is. And it says the word here, the money, it has a reference code A. And then you go down to the Bible, at the bottom of Bible usually, or the back of the Bible, usually it's the bottom of the Bible. It reads, says, it's a Hebrew word, and it's 100 kreshita. I don't know how to pronounce it. And it's a unit of money of unknown value. So they tried their best, tried to figure out how much that 100 worth is. Because it doesn't have the unit like a dollar or cent. They kind of tried to guess, but couldn't figure out definitely how much it's worth. So it's 100 something. So actually it's 100 something. They don't know whether it's dollar or anything of that. So cannot figure out the value. And then here's F. F is right there. Elohi Israel. El Elohi Israel. What does it mean? It's a Hebrew word. So in these cases, even though it's in the Old Testament, what we're doing is, when you find this foreign language, whether it's a Hebrew or Greek, original of Hebrew and Greek appears in the text, that means you should not or you cannot translate into English or any other language. And the author or the translators of the Bible, they decided and they thought it is best to leave in the original pronunciation or original language. So here it is, the Hebrew word Elohi Israel. It means, so here's a reference, it means God, or the God of Israel. God of Israel. So you go back and say, called it the God of Israel. So he called on God, the Yahweh, in the word. So this is you can tell this is a very fundamental act of worship. This is a picture I found from internet, and it says Jacob's well. It's black and white. It used to be, and probably in the old days, it looked like this. Nowadays, this is inside, and they built a building around that Jacob's well, and tourists can come and make a visit, and this is what it looks like today. That's Jacob's well today. Now, Jerusalem. Jerusalem is very significant place and the name in both Old Testament and New Testament. So without understanding this very location, very city of Jerusalem, you will not be able to really actually understand the message in the Old Testament or New Testament. So if you're a student of Bible, and if you're a Christian who wants to study the Bible, this is a must. You need to know what Jerusalem is. Some scholars devoted his or her entire life studying the city of Jerusalem. So that means it is that much important. The meaning of the word Jerusalem, it means possession of peace. Because shalom or salem or shalom has all the same root. Salem means peace, or shalom also means peace. Jeru means possession or having. So having the peace, or possessing the peace, or foundation of peace. There are many little variation of the translation, but it basically saying is place of peace, or the town where embraces peace. So Jerusalem is a very symbolic place for both Jews and Christians, because whether it's you're Jew or Christian or Catholic, for the matter, or Orthodox Christian, all the even the Islamic, the Muslims, that Jerusalem is the center of their faith, as a symbol, the symbol of what their faith is about. So what Christianity is about? Of course, it is about Jesus the Christ. So Jesus, the Christ, is the center of our belief. But at the end, why do we believe in Jesus as the Son of God, the Savior and the Lord? The answer is for the eternal peace. Eternal peace. This peace is very interpersonal peace, not just the peace, nothing happening. That's not the peace that Bible is talking about. Biblical peace is a very active and dynamic relationship, and then engagement and interaction among the human beings and among human beings with the Godhead, and then including even angels. So all the personal beings, God and His creation, will live in harmony. Very interactive, dynamic, love, faith, and hope. That's kind of peace that we are going to yearn, or going to hope. So, the Jerusalem is the very significant place. You got to know this, and as you read the Bible, New Testament, Jerusalem is mentioned quite often. And as it is mentioned, it's not just the name of the city. When it is mentioned, it means remind us of the place of peace, or the eternal peace, or the foundational peace. So that's how the Jerusalem is going to sound to us. See, these are just a prop for the information. We're not going to go into all the details here. But the history of Jerusalem is another thing that you are going to look for as you try to understand the background of a particular geographical location that is mentioned in the New Testament. Not all the cities will have this kind of detailed information. For example, the Sychar or the Samaria, it would not have this detailed history. But Jerusalem, you'll find very detailed information regarding from the beginning or first settlement of how Jerusalem was mentioned in the cuneiform Amana, which is date back to 1400 BC. And then we have Iron Age, and then go into Persian period, early Bronze Age, Middle Bronze Age, and late Bronze Age, and so on. So these chronicle or the timeline, kind of show us how Jerusalem was initially started and changed throughout the course of history. Now, this New Testament Jerusalem is what we are looking for. And there are several periods that it has been labeled by the scholars, and it begins by Hellenistic period in Jerusalem, which runs from 332 to 141 BC before Christ. And then that kind of shows how Jerusalem was in history before Jesus was born. And that says also Harmonian period, which runs to 37 BC. So still, Jesus was not born yet, but very close to where Jesus is going to be born. And Hasmonean dynasty as one that has very big influence on it to Jerusalem. And then as you read 63 BC, Roman general Pompey, he captures Jerusalem. That is one very historic incident or historic landmark. That's where the Roman colonial rule or government had begun in the city of Jerusalem, which means the land of Jerusalem and Judea was under Roman Empire for at least 60 years when Jesus was born. So Jesus was born into this Roman colonial state. And it's not just 3 years or 4 years ago, but already it's been more than 60 years that they were suffering under Roman Empire. So that kind of gives us the idea about the expectation of the Messiah, political Messiah. They wanted someone to be born and take power and that superpower so they can fight against this Roman Empire who are giving very, very difficult time to all the Jews. So that's kind of a mindset. And that same mindset influences Iscariot Judas. So Judas is not someone who is crazy or someone who is antisocial or psychopathic, but he is just one of the normal Jewish kind of Jewish people who are expecting the political liberation from Roman Empire. So that kind of information gives us a better idea about understanding who Iscariot Judah is and why people change from Hosanna to kill him. It just within a matter of few days. Because they were expecting Jesus to be the political Messiah. When he enters the city of Jerusalem, right before his crucifixion, they were welcoming him because they thought, the citizens of Jerusalem thought he is indeed the Messiah that's coming. But, once he is being judged in the court of Pilate, the Roman governor, their hope kind of just diminished. So that's why they were shouting, just kill him. We don't want him anymore. So that's kind of mindset. New Testament Jerusalem, Herodian period. This is when Jesus is born. So there are several King Herod, families, not just one king, but the kings. And it begins before Christ, 37 BC to 70 AD. Now they use a CE, but for us it's AD. And then Roman period, years 70 to 324. So Roman force destroys Jerusalem and demolish second temple. So year 70 is another kind of landmark date that you want to remember as you try to read through New Testament, because some of the New Testament writings were written right before the fall of the destruction of the second temple, or sometimes the scholars think it happened right after the fall and the destruction of second temple. So that gives the historical mark within the document in the New Testament. So when you're trying to make a date of the writing on some of the letters that written by Paul or Peter, that incident, destruction of temple, they try to see whether there is any hint or mention of the destruction of the temple or not. So that's how they figure out how old that the particular gospel or the particular letters were written. Okay. Then Byzantine period follows. There's like a post-Christian or post Pentecostal church. So it's just a example of references that you'll find. Then Middle Age and so on. Now, so much for the Jerusalem. Okay. We'll begin from here next week. So let's do the here attendance.